Hello. One of the Circuit Court's considerations in the sentencing of Rosemond Brown, popularly known as Ikuapem-Polo, is the age of the accused person's son and the trauma he's going through. Today, we are talking about the rights of children in Ghana. Welcome to Good Afternoon, Ghana. My name is Francisca Kakra-Forsen. Join our conversation on Facebook via Metro News, at Metro TVGH on Twitter, and also on WhatsApp. You can send a message to the mobile number that will be displaying on your screen. Please do not call the number, just send the message. This is Good Afternoon, Ghana, and I'm Francisca Kakra-Forsen. Welcome back to Good Afternoon, Ghana. We're talking about the rights of children in Ghana. And joining me for this conversation is Bright Apia, the Executive Director of Child Rights International. We'll also be joined by Benjamin Ntiedu. He's a lawyer and a legal researcher via Zoom. But Bright is in the studio with us. Good afternoon, Bright. You're welcome.
Good afternoon.
Good to see you. Good
to see you.
Hope you're well.
Yes.
Yes. So I want us to start our conversation with the definition of a child. I asked my producer to put on display, I think, Section 123 of the Children's Act, and then we can have the conversation. So the law generally refers to a child as somebody below the ages of 18. Exactly. Correct?
Exactly.
Yes. And what are the rights that children enjoy?
You know, in the law, they've divided the right into 4 areas. That is the right to participation, best interest, development, and growth.
Okay.
So based on that we have defined the general right of every child.
Okay.
Where we talk about the right to education, the right to health, the right to privacy and dignity. And anything that will help in the development of children will be ascribed as right, but they've divided into 4 areas.
I want to engage you in something that's interesting. This is from 2018, where this was during the vetting of Martin Amidu, the former special prosecutor. A question about his children brought in, kind of a whole, a bit of a radical definition, really. And if we have that video, let's play that video, and then we'll proceed from there.
The nominee wrote, "The last of my 3 children, who was born on 31st December 1982, now has 2 children and is in Okujeto Abrakwa's peer group. And today he's here saying that the 3 are not children, they are adults. So how is he reconciling the 2 positions?" Mr. Chairman, this is simple. This child at that time was born on 31st December 1982. She was a child. And I said he's in his peer group. She's become an adult. I don't have any legal control over her. So that's the input. At the time she was born, she was my child. I looked after her to go to school. She's grown. She's a getting majority. She's married now with 2 children. There I go and say that I can do anything with her. That's the input.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think it will be fair to let it pass. If viewers are listening and the interpretation...
Honourable Member, kindly ask the question.
Yes, that's what I'm getting to, Mr. Chairman. Please, if you'll be patient with me. Thank you. Okay, so I don't think it will be fair to let it stand, especially that some children may be watching. If it is interpreted to mean that when your children become adults, they cease being your children. Even if they are adults, I think they are still your children. And the nominee says that he doesn't think that they are his children. But I think that we have to set that record straight. Does the nominee agree with me, please?
Mr. Chairman, Shakespeare says there are as many opinions as there are men. In my learning and understanding, children are children. When they attain the age of majority, they legally are adults and no more children. So my understanding is that I have no control over these 3 adults. And if I attempt to control them, I could be in legal trouble. That's why I call them adults. But biologically and legally, when they were kids, they were my children. That's my opinion.
So do they cease being your offspring? Do they cease being your children? Because
they don't cease being my offspring. They are my adult companion for whom I will do anything because of the blood connection between me and them. But they are not, strictly speaking, children.
Right, Mr.
And as I said, there has been opinions as there are many.
So this is in Parliament House from 2018. What's your take on this? There was a need for him to make this distinction between a child, and he's looking at a legal and a biological. What's your take? Do you agree with him, and why is there the need for the distinction?
Yeah, I think that he was trying to draw the attention of the vetting committee that there's a legally, at a point, children ceases to be part of the whole family system when they attain the age of majority. So in this case, for a person to attain the age of majority, it means that the person should be above 18 years. So clearly the law is clear on that. And beyond that, the state or parent do not have so much control over what they do. It is their decision. So for instance, when you are in the police service and you live in a barracks, it's a policy that when your children attain the age of 18 years, they are at liberty to leave the barracks to find a home for themselves. So these are the clear distinctions that he was trying to draw. But biologically or traditionally, even as I said here, my mom or my dad will call me as his or her child. So that link can be created. But legally, in terms of how they conduct themselves, I think that's the distinction that he was trying to put out there.
Very well. And do you agree with the distinction?
Yes, of course, I agree with him. But just that probably he did not go straight explaining to them the below 18 years they are children, and from there they are adults and all that.
Yeah, that's interesting from Martin Amidu. But yeah, now let's look at the issues surrounding children, which is the crust of your work.
Exactly.
First of all, why are you obsessed, and I'm using it positively, why are you obsessed with children's rights?
Well, I always say that I have a covenant with children, that in all times their rights must be protected. And this is also supported by the Children's Act and most of the legislation that we have drafted. So I draw my strength from the legal provision that we have in protecting the right of children. I have traveled length and breadth of this country, and I've seen things that children are going through. So I don't take it for granted at all when I get the opportunity to defend children or to protect their right. It is one of the things that I don't negotiate with anybody, irrespective of who you are. Once you abuse a child, I would definitely play my role in context of the law. So that is a kind of a passion that drives me as a person, and that was also drives Child Rights International. Aside
the passion, is it rewarding? Is it rewarding work?
Well, I personally have not, if in terms of rewarding, for instance, I don't take salary at Child Rights International, but most of my travels, most of the policy initiatives that I've done for countries and all that, it is as a result of my position in Child Rights International. So it is rewarding for working for children. I strongly believe that from the Christian point of view, defending children is also getting protection from the Almighty. So there's a whole lot of rewarding system that I can say that I've had as a result of defending children.
And you've been in the business of protecting children for how long?
I entered Child Rights in 2005.
2005?
2005. But then I was working with the National Youth Platform, looking at youth development. So the first National Youth Charter that Ghana got, I was part of those who developed that document. So, and because of my study, I did youth in development work at the university before going to do my master's and then doing my
So LLB. This covenant started a long time
ago? Long time ago. Wow. Long time ago. And we started fighting for the right of children not today. There are a lot of cases that we have prosecuted, a lot of cases that we have negotiated, a lot of cases that we have arbitrated on. And unfortunately, because of the nature of our work, we don't really put a lot of things out there about children because we need to protect them. And there's a lot of things that we cannot also put out there. So we are handicapped in terms of our engagement with the public because they are children. So people do not really see the evidence of the things that we do. But if you pick our report, you will see the kind of work that we are doing.
So what are some of the highlights of, if I should say, your biggest cases that, in terms of, yes, you cannot mention their names and certain details, but what are some of the big cases you're handling?
Yeah, for now, within the child labor sector, we have withdrawn about 43,000 children. We have given them support. They are in school. And
withdrawn them from where?
From child labor.
Okay.
For instance, in the cocoa sector, there's a lot of child labor cases there. We've withdrawn about 43,000 children. We've placed most of them integrated some of them into their family system. We have also put some in school. We have given support to them, and they are doing very well. And as I speak, about 30 of them are in the university. And for me, it's gratifying to see that people are progressing.
Now,
and then, okay.
No, very well, carry on.
And then there are a case that we negotiated for 2 children where a particular institution decided to toy with the lives of the children. We negotiated for them, and currently these children do have an investment account with Data Bank, and when they attain the age of 18 years, to be handed over to them.
Child labor is one of the biggest issues of children, but educate us on what are the other issues affecting children.
Well, abuse is one of the biggest issues that we are confronted with now. It comes in the form of physical, verbal, and I would even say that the verbal abuse is more contagious, or it affects children more than even the physical, because they are even used to the physical ones and all that. So these are some kind of abuse that really affect children. Now, a cyber crime is also increasing and is affecting children. A lot of children are being bullied on the internet, and then asking them to bring all kinds of things, blackmailing them for purposes of retrieving some money or all kinds of things from them and all that. So for me, in the current dispensation that we find ourselves in, I think abuse, verbal abuse and internet abuse is one of the things that we have to deal with. Okay,
what about exploitation and neglect?
Yeah, exploitation is also an issue. I did not mention it because of the legal framework that we have in dealing with that, because it is straightforward that once you neglect your child, the state can come after you, and then certain cost will be awarded to the child. And if you are not careful, the state can even decide to put the child into the hands of a fit person. And that fit person can either be in the family or outside trained for that purpose. So there's a way that the state can deal with that aspect of it. That's why I don't see it more of an issue, because there are a lot of cases that the state decided that, no, we want to award cost, or decide that we want to take the child.
Okay, let's get on to Zoom. We're joined by lawyer Benjamin Antiedu. Thanks very much, lawyer. And this is the question I want to ask. Why is the state concerned about the child, especially when in Ghana it's the parents or the guardians who are bearing the entire cost of raising the child?
Yes, you make a very interesting point there. And I can see that our formidable child rights activists even laughed over that. So the child is a very important asset of the state. You know, we say the children are the future leaders of our country. It's a very important resource. So every state you look at around the world, children are highly protected because of the resource that they hold for the future. You will find that international conventions and our domestic laws acknowledge and find space to protect children because of their vulnerability. You know, children are a key part of our vulnerable population because they are in a position where they cannot take decisions for themselves. They cannot fend for themselves. They lack so many capacities, even in law, even to sue, and engagement in some economic and contractual issues in general. So that is why the case of children are always distinguished and then given special treatment.
Very well. And in your estimation, will you say that the laws, for instance, the Children's Rights, the Children's Act, they give ample protection of children?
Yes, to a large extent, but the point that has to be made strongly is that we have to domesticate our laws or understand our law within our local perspective. Okay, there are certain things that if we engage in Ghana, maybe the laws will accommodate. But if you look at it in other jurisdictions, you may say that may be a child abuse. But the context, we ask ourselves, what is the protection? What is the core interest of the law? The core interest of the law is to give children an environment where they can grow and develop their full capacities. Okay, so if the act in question is not the one that will deprive the child that opportunity of growing physically, intellectually, emotionally, and then to develop his or her full capacity, then we cannot say that that is an abuse. If you permit me to cite the example of the advertisement that has become an issue. Yes, in some countries there is a total ban on using children for adverts, but the point should be made that if the advert is not the kind that will affect the child psychologically, affect the child physically, or impair any developmental activities of the child, then that must be allowed, because we have seen that children in some jurisdictions have made serious strides, made economic fortune.
Well, it appears the connection there has been lost. But what's your take?
Some of these activities.
Hello, Benjamin. Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Okay. There was a break somewhere. But carry on. Okay, Benjamin, hold the line. I think they'll rectify that. And I'll come to you in the studio. He's making an important, interesting point about domesticating the law and all that. What's your take?
Yeah, we have domesticated our laws. After the passage of after we signed and adopted the UN Convention on the Right of the Child, the state took steps to also develop national laws that protect children. So in 1998, we passed the Children's Act, Act 360. And if you look at the discussion that went on the passage of the Act, you realize that a lot of things were taken into consideration before the passage, because even in the Convention on the Right of the Child, it calls for countries to observe their context in passing laws that protect children. So, which means that we did same, because Ghana is one of the countries that did not raise any observation about the UN Convention on the Right of the Child, because we were the first people to sign it, and we believed in entirety of the convention. So we accepted everything. And then also, you look at the way we have drafted the Children's Act, clearly the cultural context has been brought to bear. For instance, if you look at the welfare principle 1 and 2, it gives responsibility to the state as to what we need to do. And that responsibility is not so strict. It says that whatever we do must be in the best interest of children. So it leaves room for us to do things that promote the welfare of children.
Let's talk about an interesting point he raised, advertising with children.
Yes.
What's our current dispensation as far as the law or what is permitted is concerned?
Yes. For generally, children can be involved in advertisement. However, it's not every product that children do have capacity to advertise on. And the age also determines whether a child can engage in producing certain kind of advert. A child can only be involved in an advert that will be beneficial to children. The product must be child-related. For that matter, a child can do that. For instance, if a child is doing an advert for Pampers, it's used by children. But if the child is doing an advert for Pampers and there is a chemical that is not going to be good for the children, then that child cannot do that. If we are using a child to do adverts like selling cement, definitely those products are not good for children. But and these are things also that builds capacity of children. So there's some level of recognition that you can do. But the product that the child must be engaged in must be beneficial to children. For that, it's allowed.
And what about the earnings that would have come from this work that the child would have done?
Yes, it depends on the age. If the child is below the age of 15 years, then the earning of whatever the child gets as a result of engaging in that kind of advert cannot be a proceed that anybody else can enjoy from.
Even the parents?
Except the child. No, the parent cannot even use it unless they are going to use it for the benefit of the child. So that is in our otherwise become exploitative.
So if they're using it to pay school fees?
No, you cannot use a child's money for the payment of school fees.
So what can you use it for?
For buying basic things for him, things that will build his capacity, because the responsibility of payment of fees is a parental responsibility. A child below the age of 15 years cannot work to pay his or her own school fees. That becomes exploitative. So whatever you use the money for.
What if, let me cite a situation, and Abraham Atta comes to mind. So he lands a gig with Hollywood.
Yeah.
If he's making big money as compared to what the parents are earning, shouldn't it be okay for the parents to, put their hand in that a bit to take care of him?
It depends on the nature of work that you're doing. So for instance, you're acting film. Film acting is part of capacity building for children. So in terms of contractual arrangement, children can be held responsible for the violation of the contract provisions and all that. So in that context, the child can use certain proceeds to further the child's education for the child to be better. But where there's a conscious effort that the child must go and work in order to pay the fees, that is where we have issues with. Okay. Because whatever the parent do with whatever proceeds the child is getting is also considered as a capacity building. So the parent cannot just get the money and say that I'm going to use it to buy clothes, to attend a funeral, all those things. No, the law frowns on it.
Let's talk about social media.
Yeah.
For instance, and this is something that is common in the West. You see Hollywood celebrities, they have accounts for their children on Instagram, for instance. I've heard you say that is wrong. What's wrong with creating an account? If I'm an actress and I create an account for my daughter, isn't that capacity building somewhere in there?
You see, the whole issue of engaging a child should have a purpose. So if the purpose is to build the capacity of the child, then in law, it is allowed. But at the point the law requires that for a child to be engaged in certain things, they must have capacity to express themselves and say that whatever is going on, they have a little knowledge of it. But where you open an account for a child for purposes of your benefit as a person, then that becomes a wrongful act that you'll be held responsible for. And one thing that we also forget is that when the child grows and decide that I did not ask my parent to open a YouTube account for me, they can sue in the court of law. And they can sue for damages and all that.
What if in opening that account, there was some benefit to the child?
Yeah, if it is for the benefit to the child, that is allowed. But also we should know that there are laws that protect the privacy and dignity of children. So if exposing the child would bring some kind of harmful effect to the child, then the state will say that your act did not protect the interests of the child, irrespective of the proceeds that you are getting.
Okay.
So, and you know how our social media environment is. It's a street and everybody walks there. So if you know that you are opening an account for the child and it's not for, you cannot regulate the way and manner people have a view of it, then that becomes an issue. You know, for instance, there was this girl who, I think one of the talented kids girls, somebody went to comment on on her page that this girl, I think that the word that the guy used wasn't that this girl, if I get her and all that. These are things that comes with the harm. So once you do that, the state would hold you responsible for that kind of act, and even hold the person who posted such statement.
Okay, let me go back to Lawyer Antiedu and get his view on this. Lawyer Antiedu, so, wow, it seems that we're having a bad day with the Zoom. We'll try and rectify that. But that brings me to the case of Ekweapempolo, especially because of the concern of the integrity, the protection of the child's integrity. I think there were 2 counts, as far as I'm concerned, the domestic violence counts with that. In the whole case of the publication of a nude with her son. Now, you play a very significant role in this case. You filed a complaint at the police CID about the picture.
Yeah.
Why did you do that?
We did that because we felt we have undermined the integrity and the privacy of the child, and then also exposing the child to pornographic materials. And on the basis of that, we decided to file a complaint to the CID to look into it. And if you look at the letter that we sent,
which is on display on the screen.
We did not only focus on the person in the picture, but we asked that the investigation must be conducted about the person, the taking of the picture, which includes the cameraman, the person who brought the idea for the picture to be taken, the location, whoever, if it belongs to anybody, that person also must be investigated and all that, because we realize that there's a collective effort in abusing the right of a child. So we asked that, and before we realized these were the issue that the police came out with, and then they decided to prosecute the matter. So
you didn't expect this outcome where we are today?
No, I was expecting I was expecting that some punishment will come, but which form I did not know, and that is purely the discretion of the court to determine whatever they want to do.
Was your complaint before or after she had come back to delete and then do an apology and all that?
No, we saw it on the 30th of June in the morning. So it was that very morning.
2020?
Yes, 2020, yes. It was that very morning that we sent our letter to the police. I think she posted it around 4 a.m.
Okay.
So before I got to the office, there were a lot of messages coming. So we decided that no, we have to take action, and we did.
Okay. And are you satisfied with the turn of events?
Well, it's not really about me being satisfied, but I feel that to what extent has the state protected the interests of the child? That is the question. For me, right from the police up to the court, I think that they've done a good job, protected the right of a child, sent a signal to the system that people cannot take children for granted. And if you do so, there's a law that protects children. So that was made known to the public. And the other things also stand as a right of appeal. And she did that, and the system gave it to her. But what I was a bit, I wasn't comfortable with has to do with, throughout the process, there wasn't any mention of what we need to do for the protection of the child, because this is a child whose right has been abused. So we were expecting that throughout the court process, social welfare will make available psychological support for the child. We didn't get that. And unfortunately, people were also using the child in appealing to the conscience of society for the release of the mother. And for me, it wasn't really about the child, but they are using the child in fighting for that. And by and large, I can see that they succeeded in doing that. And that sends a very strong signal into the system that generally, society do not really care about children. And if they do, and they know that they are right, that protect them, then we'd all follow that right and ensure that we give it to them.
Let's look at the picture in question.
Yeah.
Some people argue that they don't see what is nude obscenity. Yes, there is nudity, but they don't see any obscenity in there or anything that hints to pornographic, content. Do you agree?
I think that is their own discretion of what obscenity is. But once an act, let's look beyond a person, an adult, having a nude picture. But this has to do with a child. And in our laws, it is only children that we have extended their right. Mm-hmm. They have to enjoy, and it must be given to them at all costs. And even your inability to give it to them even constitutes a crime that the law can take you on. So if you look at it from that context, then probably you can have a clear definition of what obscenity is. Okay. Then also, if the police did not see any merit in the case that we sent to them, I don't think that they will proceed to court with it. And if the court too did not see any merit in it, I don't think that they would have come up with the kind of judgment that they did, all in protection of a child. So the interpretation of what would constitute nudity or obscenity in the context of children, the discretionary authority has been given to the court to do that. And for me, I think that they did exactly that. You've indicated that none of this was personal and that the interest of Child Rights International was mainly and purely about the 7-year-old involved. Exactly. Some people think that you took it too far and that if she had come to apologize and delete, it should have ended there. You see, that is the kind of things that when people say, I find it a bit strange. This person, sometimes it's a bit difficult to talk about it because somebody will feel that you have a personal issue against the person. But I don't know the person from anywhere. And I went in because of the child. And that is what we did throughout the process. Even when she was prosecuted, we have to even do a follow-up to the family house to find out the state of the child and had engagement with some of the family members and all that. Did you engage her at any point in time? Oh yes, even when she was at the police custody, I called her and we spoke at length and I gave her the roadmap, what we want to do for the child. So if you look at the attitude of child right, it is only about the child, and all the things that we've talked about has to do with the child. And for me, once the child is protected, we are okay. And we will go any length to negotiate for anything that will be beneficial to the child. The court has indicated or has hinted that the sentence or the punishment given is, or a major consideration will be to deter others from doing that. This is a sort of clamp down against the publication of nudity or nude pictures on social media, online. For you, what do you expect from this case, especially with the appeal that she's pushing as against the sentence in the 90-day jail term? For you, what do you expect from the case as we stand, or looking at the next phases of it? Well, the judge was very apt in her judgment. Clearly, the intention of the judge, based on the ruling, was not necessarily for punitive purposes, but to serve as a deterrent for others not to do that. So if you look at the offense that they ascribed that she committed, and then said that she's guilty for all of the 3 counts, each offense can even attract 3 years. So imagine that if the intention of the judge is to go to the full length of the punishment, you know what would have happened. But some people say they could have opted for a caution or a fine. But you see, that's the decision of the judge. It is a sole decision of the judge. So people, if I were in the seat, I could have taken a different angle altogether. And, but she decided that this is what I want to do. And for me, she succeeded in doing that, because that evening, I've had a lot of calls, how people were deleting their nude pictures and all that. I'm like, well, if that will serve the interest of the country, why not? So she sent her message out, and people got the message. So it is not, what she gave was not really for a punitive action, but for a deterrent. But whichever way people want to interpret that is their own decision. But I think that I'm not a court. There are a lot of cases that we've sent to court. Some we won, some we did not. But I strongly believe in the court that when it comes to issues about children, they can do their best. Because if you look at, I had opportunity to look at the juvenile justice system of the United States, and clearly you'll see that it's very progressive, and a lot of authority has been given to the judiciary in passing laws that always protect the interests of children. So if, for instance, a matter like this, the judiciary will make a pronouncement that becomes law. So moving forward, people will not find the need to commit such offenses and all that. But here we are, and the most important thing is that all of us must put ourselves together to protect the interests of children, and that's all. There's been some backlash at you, yes. Especially because of this case. How do you react to that? Well, I feel that I'm working to protect children, and I'm getting it. And as I said, I have a special relationship with children. So when you do that, it doesn't really change anything about me. But once I'm determined to do this, I'll do it. And there are a lot of cases that very soon will go to court. And if the court sees that there is merit in it, they will pass their judgment. And that is it. Very well. Let's. I think we have Lawyer Antiedu back on the line. Hello, lawyer. Can you hear me?
Yes, Franca. Yes.
Yes. You know, before we lost you, you had brought in an interesting angle about advertising and children being involved, or really generally working. Bright and I had a bit of a conversation about celebrities or actors and what have you, creating social media accounts for their children. What's your take on it?
Yes, thank you. And I think Senior Bright has done a good job by expatiating on that aspect. But the comment I made about domestication, I made a point in the sense of perspective, having a local perspective to the extent that one may appear to, let's say, a British as a case of child labor may not necessarily be so within our context. And so that is the point I want to make. But on advertisement or using children for economic activities, as you have described, definitely we have to assess every case, to see whether it is having a physical, psychological, or a developmental strain on the child. So if it can be ascertained that whatever activity that the child is being used to is the kind that will be beneficial to the child, the kind that will not affect his or her development. It will not affect her psychological or emotional well-being, then that should be the critical consideration of whether or not that activity should be permitted. But if, as has been said, the core aim is to generate some economic gain to the mother or the guardian, then that clearly is unlawful. So for, let's say, opening an account for a child, clearly will be unlawful, because the purpose cannot be to develop or to, do something that will promote the well-being of the child. Definitely, the child will be exposed to an environment which may impair his or her growth and development.
Okay.
And then maybe time that must be used for educational purpose may be directed at, working more to get likes and other things that may not be good. But for advertisement that has been suggested, if the child is used to advertise books or to do things that will develop, let's say, the interest of the child. In schools, we have drama groups and other things, singing groups and all. They are part and parcel of the developmental agenda of children. So for those ones, we have to understand it in that context.
Very well.
If the child, the mother or father is engaged in an activity that the child can learn from in maybe the child's leisure time, that the father is a musician, and so in the child's leisure time, if the child is with the father and the father is playing music and then there's a video on that cannot be said to be exploitative.
Okay.
That is something that the child can learn from and will be beneficial to the child. Okay.
At this point, I'd like to take some messages. I'll go to Facebook and Say It Right. Says, ask him for me, he's referring to Bright, what he and his organization have been doing for the many children on the streets. Jennifer Padra says, Kakra, do ask him about the kids on the streets and how they intend to take them to safety. It's a nuisance and it's unsafe. Bernard Alote says, can you ask him what support his organization offered or would have offered to the boy during the short incarceration of his mother? On WhatsApp, I have some messages on WhatsApp. This person says, I want to find out if Good Afternoon Ghana is only on Mondays and the time that you start. Thanks. Good Afternoon Ghana is Mondays and Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Another message from Amofa in Adenta. He says, good afternoon. I'm really enjoying your show. Thanks to Mr. Bright Appear for his good work. My question is, how can the internet abuse be solved, because it is gaining roots in our country now? Kin Mahmoud from Nungwa sends us this. What is Child Rights International doing to help the children of Kayaye women around Tema Station? If you go there and see what the children are going through, it is very pathetic. So I think some questions about street children and also at the Kayaye. But I'll let you touch on this after this break. Okay. Yesterday we had a report on children on the streets begging and how much of a nuisance they are becoming as well in issues of security. But this is Good Afternoon Ghana. When we come back, Bright will attempt the questions. Stay with us. Welcome back to Good Afternoon Ghana. Today we're talking about children and their rights, and a lot of you are enjoying our conversation and sending your messages. We are grateful for that. Before, right, what we want to do, maybe address the questions, and then we can move on to the next phase of the conversation, which is a surprise to our audience. Oh, wow. Yes, I think they were asking about what you're doing for street children, but really they are becoming a nuisance. I was talking about a report yesterday.
It's a very serious issue, and I even consider it as a national security issue, and the state must quickly move in to address that. But what we have done is we've carried out the research, and we want to look at some issues. And some we need to prosecute, because the state gives responsibility to other people to ensure that children do not get on the street. So we want to enforce that. So very soon we will take the appropriate steps to deal with that. And once you are engaging the withdrawal of children from the street, there are serious infrastructural issues that you need to put in place. So you need to get that right, so that when you are withdrawing them, you know where to place them. So there's been some discussion going on with other religious bodies to see where we can make facilities available, so that when we start, we can do that. But mainly, when it comes to dealing with children on the street, it's more of the responsibility of social welfare than institutions like Child Rights International. But also, so what we can do is to enforce that responsibility to be adhered to. So that's the step that we're going to take, and we'll deal with that. Okay. And right now, though, I want to show something to you to be displayed on the screen. So this is a book written by Bright Kweku Appiah. That's our guest today. The title is A Child is a Subject of Law. And so last night I read this book. I started sometime during the afternoon, late afternoon, and I read this book. And I was telling you at the break that this is very useful for me as a journalist. And if I were working with children, or if my reportage in the media was on children, this will be my go-to Bible, so to speak, because it's looking at all aspects of a child. For instance, when we did the Kaswa story, where teenagers killed another boy, how to proceed, the kind of questions we should have. This is really good, and this is a guide. If you don't have a copy, you should get it. But what does it mean when you say a child is a subject of law? Yeah, well, it simply means that everything about a child is law. If you hold a child's hand and you are working with a child, know that everything about that child is law. When you go to the hospital and the nurses and the doctors are taking care of your child, you should know that they are taking care of law. Everything about children is law. That is why we went to the extent of putting everything together that concerns children so far as the law is concerned. So you look at even the evolution of rights, you look at things that you cannot do against children when it comes to contractual issues, it comes to criminal issues, and even the juvenile justice issues and all that.
Yeah.
So we've tried as much as possible to put everything together so that once you pick one particular book, you'll get all aspects of it that relates to children and all that.
And what I found interesting, this is looking at the evolution. This is page 4. Page 4 says, according to McKinney and Hobbs, children and youth in Ghana took independent action against agricultural employers in the 1960s and 1970s.
Exactly.
That's very interesting.
Yes.
I didn't know about that. I guess maybe.
Yes. Most of the things that happen, for instance, France like this, the whole educational system was restructured because children decided that no, they have to demand for their right to education. So the whole reform was because of the actions that children took.
So they are an active participants, or they're active participants.
They are part of society.
In the conversation about their rights.
Exactly. What happened in South Africa during the apartheid? Children led a movement that transformed a lot of things. Even in Ghana, So you cannot just brush their concerns and then think that no, because children are children, you have to treat them as such. They are well informed about certain things, and we also need to engage them in the process to understand even how the state want to move. If, for instance, we have conducted a research, we were asking children in the next 20 years, how do they want to see Ghana? And that if they get money today, what do they want to use it for? And very soon we will launch the report. It's a very interesting report, listening to where children want Ghana to be in the next 20 years.
When you say very soon, when?
By next week, the report will be ready, which will go through a lot of reviews.
Metro TV will be on your neck.
Oh, definitely. Anytime you
well.
invite me to discuss the report, I'll be glad to be present.
We'll draw the curtains here now. My guest, Bright Appiah, Executive Director of Child Rights International, and Benjamin Antiedu, lawyer and legal researcher. He joined us via Zoom. We're grateful to you for your company on Good Afternoon Ghana. Before I go, watch out for The Real Show on Friday night, 8:30 p.m. and a repeat on Sunday, 1 p.m. You don't want to miss that show. It's The Real Show for real women. Don't miss it. But this has been Good Afternoon Ghana with me, Francisca Kakrafos, and thank you so much for your company.